A team of adventurers descends into a cave in northern Alabama. A thunderstorm dumps 2 inches of rain in 20 minutes, unleashing a flash flood.
There just was no break from the water, and it was just everywhere.
Water traps the explorers. Rescuers can't reach them. And the water is rising on this expedition to the edge.
You want anything?
God, look at that one.
A cave explorer is a pioneer through stone. Add the element of water, and it becomes an even more challenging journey.
When you get on rope and get into a waterfall, the first thing you notice is the power of the water. You can feel it. It's really pounding you hard. You know, it's like, well, if I do this wrong, I could die here.
Alan Kressler works for the U.S. Geological Survey and is an expert caver.
Water's dangerous. Water can kill you.
Science teacher Forrest Walker goes caving 48 weekends a year.
So your adrenaline's just pumping, and it's just so much fun to feel that way. I mean, everything's just, you feel so alive.
These adventurers challenge themselves by exploring in one of the greatest concentrations of caves in the United States. TAG, where the borders of Tennessee, Alabama, and Georgia meet. TAG's underground landscape is a network of more than 13,000 caves, bored into the local limestone over millions of years by subterranean streams and rivers.
I like TAG because of the water. Hydrologically, our limestone caves are the wettest probably in this country.
One is a magnet for wet cave explorers, McBrides Cave. On an overcast morning in May 1997, an 11-person team of expert cavers caravans to the entrance of the cave at the Lloyd family farm. Rainfall over the past week has been 20% above normal.
We saw that the water levels were up. We knew we were in for a sporting trip, and we were looking forward to it.
Their mission is to descend through McBrides Cave, a 1.7-mile labyrinth that forms a jagged staircase 513 feet deep. Along the way, there are 9 pits, known as drops. The cave was first mapped in 1978 by Gerald Money.
As we got further and further into the cave, the passage got bigger and bigger, and I saw that volume of water. I have found that no other cavers knew about, probably in excess of 1,000 caves. One of the driving forces among a lot of cavers is to find new caves and be the first one to explore it.
That's what I love. I love a cave with a lot of water in it.
Nancy Ollenbach is a National Cave Rescue instructor and Montessori teacher. She's been caving since childhood.
I was caving in utero quite a bit with my mom, and so it was only natural for me to just love being underground. That's where I'm the most comfortable.
It was a chance of rain, but McBrides, something you can do in high water. The cave's not dangerous, it's fun.
I mean, that thing could have been juking like crazy and I still would have gone in.
The cavers plan to be underground for 3 hours, so they travel light. They bring along the basics: elbow and knee pads, helmets, and lights. They decide not to weigh themselves down with a first aid kit, and only half the group chooses to wear wetsuits. Cell phones, radios, and walkie-talkies don't work underground, so they're also left behind. There'll be no communication with the outside. The cave entrance gives no hint of what lies below. One by one, the cavers shimmy into the darkness. The team's first obstacle is a 36-foot double drop.
Once everybody was down that drop, we pulled the rope down behind us. We're now committed to make the trip through the cave.
With its multiple descents and downhill exit, McBrides is what cavers call a pull-down trip.
Essentially, when you do a pull-down trip, you're burning your bridges as you go.
It's pretty obvious once you go down the first 20 feet that you can't climb back up. It's a one-way trip.
We're all going past where the water is infeeding into the passage, and we're noticing that it's higher than anybody's seen before. So the thought's going through the group, oh no.
Even though there was all that water, it was more exciting than it was scary. I probably should have been more scared, but that's how I felt.
The water was moving so fast, and I wasn't absolutely sure because of the volume of water what would happen.
This is not looking good. This water is really, really high.
There is no going back up that pit. There's no going back up any pit. So there's no going back out the way you came. You've got to go to the bottom.
To get there, they must negotiate 4,500 feet of cramped crawl spaces and steep drops.
You get very good at something and you take it for granted, and it's the things that you don't expect that end up killing you or hurting you severely.
"90 minutes into the descent, the cavers come upon a 6-foot ledge.
And I remember discussing how you do this with Forrest, how you go down this jump.
So I was a little nervous about this jumping down it, but I didn't want to hold everyone else up with rigging it. And I've done stuff like that before, so I didn't think it was really that big a deal. So I jumped down it.
Her decision to jump changes everything. In northern Alabama, a high-risk caving adventure is underway. A week of spring rain, 20% above average, has raised the water level inside McBride's cave. The cavers must keep moving.
I didn't think it was really that big a deal. So I jumped down.
Forrest lands in a swirling pool, breaking her ankle. The team is only a quarter of the way through the cave. The injury forces a decision. Should Forrest stay behind and wait for rescue, or risk moving on?
A full-blown rescue involves lots of time, and a wet cave is not a place you want to spend a lot of extra time.
I didn't like the idea of rescue because I was too cocky. I didn't want to be rescued.
This is a team of strong individuals with no designated leader, so the critical choice is left to the injured Forrest.
It's hard to say, Forrest, you can't do this, because you tell her you can't do it, that just makes her want to do it even more.
I was in a lot of pain, and I didn't want to make any decisions.
That was the point where I think the trip went from just being a fun romp through the underground into something serious.
Forrest decides to press on, but her injury slows the entire team. It's no longer a 3-hour tour. Above ground, it begins to rain. In 30 minutes, 2 inches of rain drench the countryside and pour into the already saturated cave. Unaware of the storm above, the team approaches a limestone pit nearly 90 feet deep, sliced by a waterfall. It's the longest vertical drop in McBrides Cave. Gary Chambers is the first to make the drop.
I've never been in any water this pounding. I felt like I was being just nailed in the top of the head with a baseball bat. I couldn't see the wall. I couldn't see any, the protrusions. I couldn't see the rope.
Halfway down, Gary's rope snags on a tooth of rock. He's caught in a shower of 50-degree water, cold enough to cause hypothermia. The rush of water robs his body of heat like a high wind, faster than total immersion. Every second Gary struggles, his core temperature drops. He doesn't act fast. He'll lose control of his hands and fingers.
I would have probably had a minute, couple minutes before my body temperature would have dropped so fast, I would have died hanging in my harness.
Gary struggles and kicks himself free. Forrest is next. She has to make the same 90-foot drop with a broken ankle.
That's the most scared I've ever been, is in that waterfall. I just could not get a breath, and I was absolutely panicked.
She fights to connect with the rock wall.
I remember seeing her disappear under the curtain of water, and I could see her light in there flailing around, and she was just basically trying to gain her footing.
I mean, I've never felt more intensely than I did in that pit. I mean, I don't want to be so dramatic as to say I thought I was going to die, but I felt it was imminent if I didn't do something about it.
Doug Strait is the last in line. Doug catches his rope in the same spot where Gary's did. He's trapped in the full force of the waterfall.
Trying to basically to breathe. I was committed at this point to go down.
Every second, the water slams him with hundreds of pounds of force. He's getting weaker. And with each breath he tries to take, he inhales ice-cold water. Hanging in midair, Doug Strait is drowning.
Yeah, I understood it at that point that either I was going to effectively deal with the situation or I was going to die.
Fighting against a hydraulic load of over 1,600 pounds, Doug struggles desperately to get some sort of leverage. He wedges his foot in a rock crease to try to twist himself free. It works, but the wrenching action fractures his leg. Less than halfway through the cave, the team is now slowed by 2 serious injuries. From above, the floodwaters start to surge towards them.
The water was moving so fast, we had to get out of the cave.
But I remember the water was coming down in pulses. It was like the whole bathtub of water would crash on you, then it would let up for a second, and then crash on you again.
With no way back, the 11 cavers must inch into a 50-foot crawl space. It's one of the cave's toughest passages, and now it's flooded.
The water was probably at least 5 or 6 inches high, but I had done low air spaces before, so that didn't bother me.
The crawl opens directly onto a 23-foot drop, interrupted 9 feet down by a narrow ledge.
I had no room to maneuver, to rig in, to do the pit the normal way that I normally have done it. I knew where the rope had to be, but when I grabbed it, I launched myself out. It just pulled out 9 feet of rope, and I just fell.
Gerald's fall is broken by the ledge, saving him from crashing to the cave floor another 14 feet below. But his thigh bone is broken.
I started coming back, and as I was, I heard somebody yelling for help. I clipped into the rope, climbed up to his ledge, and he told me what had happened. He'd broken his leg.
The team wants to move him, but doing so could further injure his leg.
Whenever they touched me, it was so incredibly painful, I told them to just leave me alone.
3 team members are hurt. Forrest has a broken ankle, Doug a fractured leg. And now Gerald, their most experienced caver, is immobilized by a broken femur. And above them, the weather is getting worse. Eleven cavers battle torrents of water deep in McBride's cave. Three are injured, including the most experienced member of the team. He cannot continue on.
It's looking like time for a full-blown call-out, a full rescue, because we're not carrying Gerald out with a broken femur.
The mission of the team changes. They must comfort those who can't continue, and they must make contact with the outside as soon as possible.
At that point, I was like, okay, well, this situation's gotten grim. It's like, somebody's got to get out of this cave. I know it about the best of anybody here, so I'm going to gather up who I can and get them out of the cave.
I don't even remember thinking, how are we going to get Gerald out? I remember thinking, well, that really sucks, but I need to start crawling because I'm cold and I need to get out of here.
Alan and another caver, Andy Porter, helped the injured Forrest through the passageway leading out of the cave. Further back, Gary and Steve Collins stay behind to care for Gerald. In the crawl space above where Gerald lies, Doug, Nancy, and Brent wait for the signal to descend past the ledge to the cave floor below. A few yards behind them are Shane Snyder and Andy Zellner. Water in the crawl space rises. At 50 degrees, it's cold enough for hypothermia to set in, especially for those cavers who decided not to wear their wetsuits. Brent worries about his wife Nancy. She's shivering and disoriented, signs of stage 2 hypothermia.
I was worrying that she would be so cold that it would be hard for her to hold onto the rope, going down the rope. So I had to take some action, and I kind of yelled at her, which is unusual for me.
It was just enough to make me go, whoa, I'm in a bad condition here. And it was enough to save my life.
Doug and Brent must get Nancy out quickly and can't wait for the signal to continue. Doug goes first. Even with a fractured leg, he makes the drop perfectly. Now it's Nancy's turn, but the effects of hypothermia are intensifying.
I just started getting kind of dumb. When you get really bad hypothermia, you start going kind of dumb. You don't think straight.
As she grabs for the rope, her finger is snapped. It is the team's 4th injury.
It was like I had my hand torn off.
I had Brent and Nancy with me. I had a task at hand, and we were on our way, and, you know, we were going to get out.
The team is now split into 4 groups. Alan, Forrest, and Andy Porter struggle forward in the passage leading out of the cave. Doug, Nancy, and Brent follow. Gary and Steve remain clustered at the ledge with Gerald. And 2 more cavers, Shane Snyder and Andy Zelder, are still perched in the crawl space. And they are the first to feel the impact of the flood pulse. A flood pulse is a rolling wave of water, swollen by rain and thick with debris. The pulse surges into the already flooded horizontal crawl space.
The water kept rising up over my back and over my head. You had to literally turn over and press your lips onto the ceiling and breathe through just the last little half-inch of airspace right there. And in moments like that, you come very close to panicking. I think the world becomes very, very black and white at that point. That if you want to continue on living, then this is what you have to do.
They somehow push through the building flood. Then, they drop through the falls at the end of the tunnel to the ledge below, where Gerald lies with a broken femur. The other cavers try to keep him warm, but the slightest touch is painful.
I basically just screamed. And I'm serious about that.
I was getting hypothermic. My lips were turning blue. I was shivering and shaking.
They can't last long like this, so Andy and Shane move on to get help. But the way out is sumped in, blocked by a flood pulse from the storm above. Andy and Shane are forced to rejoin Gerald, Steve, and Gary. The 5 cavers are trapped.
So now we're aware that we're going to be there for a while. And Gerald's not going to get out as quickly as we hoped, and we're all realizing that we're going to be freezing for some pretty good amount of time.
I said, well, I might not make it, but you know, if I don't make it, I don't make it.
Further along, ahead of the flood pulse, Alan, Andy, and Forrest creep towards daylight.
I was so junked up on adrenaline because my ankle was broken. I've been banging it all over the place. I mean, my body had to be just an adrenaline cesspool.
She was pretty insistent that she complete the trip.
And a large part of me was just thinking, well, this is really cool. Look at me, I'm crawling out of here with a broken ankle. What a stud I am.
Almost 7 hours after they went in, Forrest, Alan, and Andy Porter stagger out of McBride's cave.
And I just remember feeling so guilty that they were still in there suffering and being cold. I mean, the feeling of, you know, of being cold in a cave and not being able to move anywhere is the worst feeling in the world.
Now they run to get help.
We heard a knock on the door. It was Alan Chrysler. And he acted like he was just scared to death. Says, we've got someone hurt in the cave. We've got to call emergency.
And then I get a call that some cavers have gone to McBride's cave and they need help. And my first thought was, well, what are they doing at McBride's cave, you know, after all this rain? That was, why are they even there?
I could tell something was wrong. He looked pretty serious, and he hung up the phone and said, well, we've got a rescue in McBride's. And I remember thinking, McBride's? Who would go there today?
You kind of started trying to visualize the dynamics of all this water that must be in the cave, and you know that Gerald's trapped and the water's rising.
The water was so high, and Buddy's and my concern was that we not have additional injuries or even fatalities of the cave rescuers themselves.
Once word gets out, the local caving community responds.
We always have concern for the rescuers, but when we got to this situation, we knew that it had been raining already for a couple of days. We knew the ground was saturated. We got there and it wasn't really high tech. We took a yardstick and stuck it in the stream coming out of the cave, and we saw that the flow was still going up.
You have a cave here that drains a huge area up on the hillside, and all the water that fell that day was funneled into it. So the flood pulse comes through when the ground is saturated and you get a sudden rainfall event that drops a half an inch or inch of rain on the saturated ground, and you've got a rush of water coming through the cave. It's not usually like a wall of water coming down. It's more like all of a sudden somebody's really turned on the taps because the water is just going up, up, up. And the next thing you know, you're trapped.
I said to Buddy, given the totality of the situation, that we were going to be doing really well at this particular incident, not to end up with some fatalities.
Still, Buddy and Dennis have to choose a rescue team.
But we can't lose any more of our friends over saving Gerald. So that's when we had the tough decisions to make.
But the flood continues to raise the water level in the cave. Buddy is forced to delay the rescue.
The water was so high, the force of the water was so great that they were turning around and coming back out a short time later white-faced, and said that they just refused to go back in the cave. I've not seen this before.
At McBrides Cave in northern Alabama, a high-risk rescue operation is underway. Water traps 8 members of a caving team. The rescuers must wait for the floodwaters to recede.
We tried to take care of the people. We made some hot chocolate for them. We had some homegrown strawberries we carried down to them.
In a flood situation in a cave, all you can do is wait. You can't be trying to force the water and get somebody else drowned or trapped, make things worse. You just have to wait and be patient. And it doesn't do any good to beat yourself up worrying about what might happen or what you might find. You'll find out when you get there.
You know, the temptation is the longer we've been caving and the better we get, you know, to push the edge. But the problem with pushing the edge is nature sometimes is very unforgiving.
The cavers have now been trapped underground for almost 8 hours. The water level and the frustration of the rescue team continues to rise. The concern is lightened by the welcome sight of 3 more cavers emerging. This leaves 5 cavers still trapped underground.
When Doug and Brent and I were out of the cave and we realized at that point that there was a flood pulse going through the cave, the water was rising, it then dawned on us, are we ever going to see our friends again? We left our friends in that cave.
It's very difficult to leave someone behind, someone you know, and looking at them in the eye and saying, we're going to have to leave you behind, even for a short period of time to go get help. It's difficult.
The amount of time that had passed and as much chilling and freezing and warming up cycle that I was going through personally, I was at one point absolutely convinced that he was going to be dead. I just knew he was going to die of hypothermia up on that ledge.
Maybe if I had stayed put, you know, Gerald wouldn't have gone down and broken his leg, and you know, all these people wouldn't have gotten injured if I had just stayed put. But instead, I had to be cocky and crawl out the bottom. And that's just unforgivable, really, that I put, you know, so many people in danger.
As rescuers, we didn't create the situation. We're here to do the best we can to save somebody's life and not endanger and kill any rescuers in the process.
In one case, a woman that we were rescuing died during the rescue, and that was the hardest and most intense thing that I've ever had to deal with. It was terrible.
Because of the amount of time that Gerald had been underground, we felt a high level of urgency that we needed to go ahead and get him out of there because of the nature of his injury.
The question is, how long can you lay there in the wet and the cold with that kind of an injury? The hypothermic conditions of the cave, that could easily be fatal.
2 hours later, around 8 p.m., the waters begin to recede. Only now is it safe for the rescue team to move in. They will be led by Bill Putnam. His motivation is personal.
I was on a mapping trip in another cave not far from here, and I was climbing on some boulders, and one of them shifted underneath me, and I fell and broke my leg. And it was a pretty long rescue, about 17 hours. A lot of people spent all night in the cave to help get me out. And as a result, I felt a real obligation to try and pay that back.
The upper entrance to McBrides is flooded, so the rescuers enter the exit. But that means fighting upstream.
The water coming out was really strong, and I remember just clawing my way upstream, hanging onto the walls and the ceiling because I couldn't get any purchase with my feet on the floor. The water was just pushing my feet out from under me. You'd pull forward a foot, and then if you weren't careful, you could drop back 2 or 3 and lose what you just gained.
What was happening is that the water, the white water in the cave was so high that they would take 2 or 3 steps forward, and every step they'd be washed back. And so they had to fight their way in against this enormous flow coming out of the cave that actually was still going up when we got there.
Then they confront a waterfall that stops them cold.
There was more water coming down that drop than I'd ever seen, and I didn't like the look of it at all.
They're afraid of what might happen if they tackle it. But what happens to the 5 trapped cavers if they don't?
Water can kill you. Got a rescue in McBrides.
This is not looking good.
The force of the water was so great.
I was going to die.
Or hurt. Or stranded.
I've not seen this before.
I just was not going to
This is getting
stop.
a little bit out of hand.
But I put so many people in danger.
You come very close to
The
panicking.
water was so high.
Are we ever going to see our friends
The
again?
water was moving so fast.
For some reason this is
There was
happening.
no one here.
I didn't like it at all. And, nobody else did either, frankly. And we had quite a little discussion there about what are we going to do? And how are we going to get up this thing? And who wants to go? And none of us were enthusiastic about it.
But his team has to decide. Bill considers carefully. If he can rig a rope to the side, he might avoid the worst of the pounding water.
I have a pretty strong motivation from my experience of being rescued, and I just was not gonna stop at that point.
Bill fixes his rope and starts wrestling his way up the waterfall.
It was just pounding on my helmet, and I couldn't hear anything. It was just knocking. It felt like a couple of guys shoving at my chest, just trying to push me back down. I like to go over with some style and grace, and this wasn't one of those times. This was a thrash. I mean, I felt like a beached whale when I finally rolled over the top of this thing.
Encouraged, the rest of the team follows him up.
As we went upstream, there was less and less airspace. The waves and the water were just completely filling the passage. There was a little bit of air sometimes bubbling through, but standing waves were up against the ceiling and we just could not get through.
Unwilling to risk more lives, they decide to back off.
You just have to slow down and wait. If you try to push it, you may very well get somebody else killed or hurt or stranded. And then you've got two rescues going on.
The rescuers retreat to a dry chamber only a few hundred feet from the trapped cavers.
They could actually hear Gerald and his companions talking as it reverberated down and into the stream passage, but the guys there could never hear them yell because there was such a huge waterfall where Gerald was injured. But they never knew the rescuers were right there just a few feet away and couldn't get to him.
On the other side of the flooded passage, the 5 trapped cavers fight the cold.
The only way I was able to stay warm down below Gerald was to jog in place for about 20 minutes at a time. Then I'd lay down, spoon with Andy and Shane for about 20 minutes before I'd start shivering and shaking again.
They're cold, they're wet, they can't get out. They're looking for some kind of shelter that doesn't exist. They're continually being exposed to the spray and the water. Now we've entered a critical part of the downward spiral.
Gary's violent shivering indicates stage 2 hypothermia. His body's core temperature has dropped below 95 degrees. As he slips below 93 degrees, he'll lose muscle control and slip into a stupor, then pulmonary edema, and then death.
He knew that Gerald was in pain. He'd been in there a long time. We knew he was a tough guy also, okay? If I had been in his situation, I would have passed away long before because I'm leaner and I would have succumbed.
You didn't know how long he could even live laying up there or if he would even be alive when we got to him. There was no way of knowing that.
The hypothermia, the shock, it might be too much. We did not want to go in there and find that Gerald had died.
Throughout the night, the water levels remain high, and the threat of more rain continues.
Here we are in the eye of the storm, and it's not raining. And we were always, of course, concerned that it was going to start shifting and dump all this rain on us.
At 5 in the morning, the rescue team in the cave sends the good news. The water level in the blocked chamber in front of them is beginning to drop.
Yeah.
After an anxious night of waiting, the support teams once again begin to move.
Because we don't need, many feet of drop. We just need 6-8 inches to a foot and to really make a huge difference. And of course, every time the water drops an inch, the velocity of that water goes way down.
Light started showing up, coming in towards us, and that was a pretty nice feeling.
The 4 uninjured cavers make their way out of the cave. But getting Gerald out will require an extraordinary team effort.
We had our team physician there also at the bottom of the pit, Dr. David Horton from China, and he was able to assess Gerald's condition and do medical intervention the best he could under these horrible conditions.
Watching all the guys working together is really something.
You know, everyone had to steel themselves and to plan for the moves before we made them. Now, again, this litter has flotation attached to it, but you've got to be careful about these moves. You line your people up ahead of time.
The team calls out for a medevac helicopter.
And they put him in the sked litter, which is a little flexible litter, and dragged and floated and manhandled him down through the crawl. And he got dunked pretty good coming through there. It seemed like the water just kind of swallowed him up. It was just whoosh, like he was being flushed down the hole.
You've got to point the litter just correctly, and you have to coordinate this with the patient so he knows that he has to hold his breath at that moment.
When you're moving somebody over obstacles, over boulders, through crawlways, through streams and around corners, you can chew up a lot of people. And it works kind of like a bucket brigade. You get people at the head of the litter, at the foot, at the sides when there's room, but a lot of times there's not. And you're passing him over the obstacles or under the obstacles or around things. And so you get people on either side of the obstacle and pass the stretcher through with the person. You have to be really careful the whole time. You have to watch out that you don't hit him in the face or brush his face up against the rock. It's not just a matter of let's grab the stretcher and run through the cave. I mean, you're crawling and dragging this thing, or you're floating it in the water and pushing it along. It's a lot of work.
And as you begin to approach the exit of the cave, everyone, despite the fact that we have agonizing fatigue, people are buoyed and they get like that second wind because they know that they're finally there, that this enormous task that we've burned out multiple teams of people. And finally this team that's been graced with the advantage of bringing the patient to daylight, they are particularly buoyed with the exhilaration of being able to get him back out there and hear the cheers from all the folks that have waited for so long to have this final person that was injured in the group to be able to make daylight.
26 hours after he climbed in, Gerald finally emerges from McBride's cave.
Well, the main thing I remember is when they dragged me out of the entrance, there was about 100 or 150 people at the entrance and they started cheering me.
Gerald's condition is better than expected. His decision to wear a wetsuit probably saved his life.
You know, Gerald was pretty, I think, you know, he was kind of embarrassed that he got hurt in the cave, but there's nothing to be embarrassed about. It was one of those things, you know. I mean, he didn't go in the cave with the intention of falling off and breaking his leg on a ledge. And nobody's blaming him for that, you know.
Well, that's about all I can say is just I'm very grateful.
Buddy Lane and I were about the last people to drive off, and I turned on my wipers again. It started raining just as I went down the driveway. And it rained all that evening and all the next day and flooded the cave.